sheriff in town.
Yeah.
He said, it's my league now.
Yeah.
He said, MJ, you had your turn. Larry Bird, you had your turn. Now it's my league.
I love it.
And we all bowed down.
LeBron James and Kevin Durant believed they were simply having a lighthearted conversation on a podcast, but their remarks about Michael Jordan quickly ignited a major controversy. What started as casual banter soon escalated into a firestorm across the basketball world. When Magic Johnson heard what was said, he refused to stay silent. This moment marked the point where an NBA legend stepped in to defend Jordan's legacy, reigniting one of the most heated debates in sports history. Some of the most impactful moments in sports don't happen on the court. They don't come from buzzer beaters or championship celebrations, but from quieter settings, podcasts, interviews, and offhand conversations where athletes speak freely and their true thoughts slip out. On July 9, 2025, one of those moments occurred. It seemed innocent on the surface, yet it was loaded with meaning. The fallout sent shockwaves through the basketball world and revived a debate that has raged for more than 2 decades. At the center of it all was an episode of Mind the Game, LeBron James' podcast, where elite basketball minds gathered to explore the mental and physical demands of competing at the highest level. Kevin Durant joined LeBron and Steve Nash in the studio, and the conversation flowed naturally, as it often does among players who have dedicated their lives to chasing greatness. The topic turned to something every veteran athlete eventually faces: recommitment. After years of grueling seasons, injuries, and pressure, players are forced to ask themselves a brutally honest question: do I still want to keep doing this? That was when Kevin Durant made the comment that set everything off. Reflecting on longevity and motivation, he spoke about being deep into a career, having achieved championships and MVPs, yet still questioning the desire to continue. He casually mentioned how some athletes step away to try something else before returning, while others choose to play non-stop for decades. On the surface, it sounded like philosophical reflection, but buried within it was a subtle jab that didn't go unnoticed. The reference was clear to anyone familiar with basketball history. When Durant mentioned players leaving to go play baseball, it pointed directly to one man. There is only one player in NBA history who famously walked away from the game at its peak to pursue a career in baseball. That man was Michael Jeffrey Jordan, the 6-time champion, global icon, and the player many still consider the greatest to ever step on a basketball court. And with that single line, a decades-old debate was thrust back into the spotlight.
I don't usually talk trash, but I had to that time. So I said, Michael, if you don't turn into Air Jordan, we gonna blow y'all out. Man, he started sweating. That tongue went long.
LeBron James' reaction was instant. He burst into a laugh that many described as a Dave Chappelle-style storytelling laugh. The kind that says, I know exactly what you just did, and I love it. It wasn't an ordinary chuckle. It carried meaning, an acknowledgement of something sharp and clever. In that moment, whether intentional or not, 2 of the biggest stars of the modern NBA appeared to be sharing a private joke at the expense of the very man whose legacy still looms over both of their careers. But this is where the story takes a turn that LeBron James and Kevin Durant may not have anticipated. That casual reference to Michael Jordan's baseball detour wasn't just about a career decision. It pointed to one of the most painful chapters in Jordan's life. On July 23, 1993, only weeks after winning his 3rd straight NBA championship, Jordan's father, James Jordan, was murdered during a carjacking in Lumberton, North Carolina. He wasn't just Michael's father. He was his closest confidant, his biggest supporter, and the man who had believed in him from the very beginning. The loss shattered Jordan in ways the public could never fully understand. When Michael Jordan announced his retirement from basketball on October 6, 1993, citing a loss of desire to compete, those closest to him knew the truth. This wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about grief. It was about a son trying to cope with unimaginable loss and honor his father's memory. What many people forget, what often gets buried beneath jokes, memes, and hot takes, is that James Jordan had always dreamed of his son becoming a baseball player. That dream existed long before basketball ever took over Michael's life. So when Jordan signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox and spent 127 games in Double-A baseball, batting .202 for the Birmingham Barons, he wasn't running away from basketball. He was running towards something deeply personal. It was a final gift to his father, a way of fulfilling a dream his father could no longer witness. That emotional context was completely missing from the podcast studio on July 9th, yet it carried a weight far heavier than any stat line or championship ring. When Kevin Durant said, "Some people say, I want to go play baseball," it wasn't just a clever comment about career paths. Whether he meant it or not, he touched something sacred. Something that goes far beyond wins, losses, and legacy debates. Within hours, the clip went viral. X, formerly Twitter, erupted into a digital battleground as Jordan loyalists and LeBron supporters clashed with playoff-level intensity. The comment sections filled with arguments, receipts, and decades of history being dragged back into the spotlight. Some defended Durant's remark as harmless banter, a playful comparison meant to highlight LeBron's unprecedented longevity. Others saw something far darker, a deliberate attempt to minimize Jordan's legacy in order to elevate LeBron's. One viral post cut straight to the heart of the controversy. Some people's fathers get murdered and they go play baseball. The words hung in the air like an accusation, shifting the conversation from GOAT debates to something much deeper, respect and awareness. Skip Bayless, never one to shy away from controversy, added fuel to the fire. He blasted Durant's comment as pathetic, accusing him of ignorance and insecurity, and turned equal criticism toward LeBron, calling his laughter equally disgraceful. In another context, the reaction might have seemed extreme. But given the emotional history involved, many felt it was justified. Because what was lost in that moment wasn't just sensitivity toward Jordan's personal tragedy. What was lost was an understanding of what made Michael Jordan's career so extraordinary. Yes, he retired 3 times. Yes, he stepped away to play baseball. But he also came back and won 3 more championships. He led the Bulls to a 72-10 season in 1995-96, the greatest regular season record in NBA history at the time. He captured 3 more Finals MVPs and finished his career 6-0 in the NBA Finals, never losing when it mattered most.
You got to get his back. You got to get his ass. So get down on that block and get him back. So I threw it to him. He scored. They come back. They scored. We scored. So we were talking stuff. So finally, we got on a little run.
The "some people play baseball" comment framed Michael Jordan's career as if it reflected a lack of commitment when compared to LeBron James' Ironman run of 22 consecutive seasons. But that framing ignores a crucial truth. Jordan's greatness was never about longevity. It was about dominance. It was about the moments when everything was on the line and Michael Jordan simply refused to lose. His legacy wasn't built on how long he played, but on how completely he controlled the game when it mattered most. As the July podcast clip continued to spread across the internet, debates intensified and think pieces multiplied. Eventually, Kevin Durant felt the need to respond. Taking to X, the Phoenix Suns star attempted to clarify his intentions. He wrote that Michael Jordan retired 3 times and was still the GOAT, and that he admired Jordan just as much as he admired LeBron playing 22 years at an elite level. He insisted there was nothing wrong with acknowledging both, even adding that he was a massive MJ fan, joking that he had $1 million worth of Jordan sneakers to prove it. For many people, though, the damage had already been done. The clarification felt less like an explanation and more like backpedaling, an effort to shut Pandora's box after it had already been thrown wide open. A laugh can't be taken back. A moment can't be erased once millions of people have already seen it, heard it, and formed their own conclusions. By then, the narrative had taken on a life of its own. What made the situation especially explosive was who was involved. This wasn't a random podcaster chasing clicks with a hot take. This was LeBron James, a player whose entire career has existed under the shadow of constant comparisons to Michael Jordan. And this was Kevin Durant, a superstar whose legacy has often been questioned due to accusations of ring chasing and jumping between superteams. These were 2 of the most accomplished players of their generation, and yet in that moment, they appeared to be diminishing the greatest player of all time for the sake of a clever line and a shared laugh. Adding another layer to the tension is the fact that Michael Jordan himself has made comments about both LeBron and Durant in the past, and they were far from flattering. His remarks were sharp and sarcastic, reminding everyone that Jordan has never shied away from defending his own legacy when he feels it's being challenged.
And if you ask me who I would take between Kevin Durant and LeBarbie Diddy James, that's a very complicated question, because one loves attending them Diddy parties, and the other one is a snake that defends himself with Twitter burner account.
The stage was set for something much bigger. There's an old saying in basketball, and in life, when you come for the king, you better not miss. In the days and weeks that followed Kevin Durant's comments, the basketball world was about to learn exactly what happens when legends rise up to defend their era, their values, and their shared history with a man who changed the game forever. A confrontation was inevitable, and Magic Johnson was poised to remind everyone why certain names are still spoken with reverence. What unfolded next wasn't just backlash, it was a full-scale generational war. For years, the sport had been quietly divided along the fault lines of the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. This moment didn't just reopen that argument, it blew it wide open. Former players who had spent years carefully tiptoeing around the GOAT conversation suddenly felt compelled to speak. And when they did, diplomacy was nowhere to be found. One of the loudest voices to emerge was Kwame Brown, the former #1 overall pick whose own career never matched the expectations placed upon him. Speaking in a YouTube video that quickly surpassed 500,000 views, Brown unloaded on Kevin Durant and LeBron James with a level of raw emotion that could only come from someone who lived through Jordan's era firsthand. He called Durant's statement ignorant, reminding viewers that Jordan won 3 championships in a row before tragedy struck. After his father was murdered, Jordan retired in October and committed himself to baseball, a sport his father had always wanted him to play. Brown didn't mince words, delivering his message with brutal intensity. But Brown wasn't finished. He went further, accusing Durant and James of hypocrisy. In his view, they criticized Jordan's career choices while their own legacies were defined by the very behavior older generations have long criticized: avoiding adversity, chasing ideal situations, and building superteams instead of conquering them. He labeled them roadrunners, players who ran from challenges rather than standing their ground. It was a scorching indictment, not just of a single comment, but of what he believed their entire approach to the game represented.
Those boys are trying their hardest, jumping from super team to super team trying to catch up to my 6 rings, but we all know it's never gonna happen.
Gilbert Arenas, the former Washington Wizards star known for his elite scoring and unfiltered opinions, added his voice to the growing backlash. Arenas pointed out what many seem to forget in the rush to create viral content. Michael Jordan didn't simply walk away from the NBA on a whim. The circumstances surrounding his retirement were far more complicated. Between the intense scrutiny over gambling allegations and the devastating loss of his father, Jordan was pushed into a situation few players today could truly understand. It wasn't just about wanting to try baseball, it was about pressure, grief, and a level of public examination that modern stars, shielded by PR teams and social media managers, rarely experience. Arenas emphasized that Jordan didn't step away because he was burned out or afraid of competition. He stepped away because the emotional and mental weight of fame, tragedy, and expectation had become overwhelming. The idea that Jordan casually abandoned basketball, Arenas argued, is a shallow narrative that ignores the reality of what he was dealing with at the time. His break from the game was not weakness, it was survival. Charles Barkley soon followed, weighing in with his trademark mix of humor and brutal honesty. Barkley, Jordan's former Olympic teammate and one of the most outspoken voices in sports media, wasted no time taking aim at the superteam era that LeBron James and Kevin Durant have come to represent. He made it clear that he has never respected players who join already dominant teams to win championships. According to Barkley, Michael Jordan never joined anyone. He took his losses, got stronger, and came back better. The message behind Barkley's words was unmistakable. He was clearly referencing Kevin Durant's decision to join the Golden State Warriors in 2016 after losing to them in the Western Conference Finals. That Warriors team had just won 73 games and didn't need Durant to be great, but with him, they became nearly unbeatable. While Durant won 2 championships and 2 Finals MVPs in Golden State, questions about the legitimacy of those titles have followed him ever since. Barkley's broader point was simple and sharp. Jordan never took shortcuts. When he kept losing to the Detroit Pistons, he didn't try to join them. He trained harder, got stronger, and eventually broke through them. That, in Barkley's eyes, was the standard Jordan set, and it's a standard he believes neither Durant nor LeBron has truly matched.
I'm sure you guys got more out of the practices than you got out of the actually playing.
You're right. We practice, man. When you got 10 egos out on that court like
Best
that.
in the world.
Yes, going at each other every single.
Steve Kerr, the current Golden State Warriors head coach and a 3-time NBA champion alongside Michael Jordan with the Chicago Bulls, offered a more measured but equally cutting perspective. Although his comments were made before this specific controversy, they resurfaced as the debate intensified. Kerr once said that LeBron James has often been compared to Michael Jordan, but in his view, LeBron is not Michael at all. Instead, he pointed to Kobe Bryant as the player who shared Jordan's mindset, the assassin mentality. It was a subtle yet devastating distinction. Kerr wasn't denying LeBron's greatness. Few people ever do. What he was suggesting is that greatness alone does not make someone Michael Jordan. There was something else, something difficult to quantify, yet impossible to ignore once you saw it. That relentless killer instinct. The willingness to break opponents mentally as well as physically. The cold-blooded approach to competition that Jordan and Kobe both embodied. In Kerr's view, LeBron, for all his achievements, operates on a different wavelength. Social media only amplified these sentiments. A Yardbarker poll showed that 62% of more than 10,000 respondents sided with Jordan supporters, agreeing that Kevin Durant's comment crossed a line. Those numbers told a deeper story than simple fandom. This wasn't blind loyalty to Jordan or hatred toward LeBron. It reflected a broader belief that something sacred had been touched. that grief and personal tragedy should never become casual material for podcast jokes. YouTube quickly became flooded with content as creators rushed to capitalize on the controversy. Videos with titles like Michael Jordan blasts LeBron and KD for disrespect or Charles Barkley just destroyed LeBron and KD racked up hundreds of thousands of views, even though Jordan himself had not made a single public statement. The hunger for engagement became so intense that AI-generated voices and recycled clips were packaged as fresh reactions, creating the illusion of direct confrontation where none actually existed. Yet beneath all the noise, the hot takes, viral clips and manufactured outrage, something far more significant was taking shape. While fans and former players argued over the meaning of Durant's words, one particular legend was preparing to make his stance unmistakably clear. Not through a tweet or a soundbite, but through the kind of deeply personal, experience-driven perspective that only someone who had truly competed against Michael Jordan could offer. Magic Johnson had been watching everything unfold. And Magic Johnson had something to say. The Lakers legend understood what many in the younger generation didn't fully grasp. This was never just about statistics or championship totals. It was about respect. It was about knowing what it felt like to face Michael Jordan in his prime, to witness firsthand a level of brilliance so overwhelming it forced you to rethink the game itself. Magic had lived it. And now, he was ready to remind the world exactly what made Michael Jordan unlike anyone who had ever played basketball.
Durant still has 0 rings, if you ask me, because he basically joined the greatest super team in NBA history just so he can finally win a ring. And when you look at Lee Diddy's rings, he won a Mickey Mouse ring in 2020 and another Mickey Mouse ring in 2012 during the lockout shortened season.
What makes Magic Johnson's perspective so uniquely valuable is his position in basketball history. He wasn't just a contemporary of Michael Jordan. He was a rival. The two men faced off when everything was on the line, most notably in the 1991 NBA Finals, which marked Magic's final championship appearance and Jordan's first title. The Bulls won the series 4-1, symbolizing a changing of the guard in professional basketball. Magic's era ended, and Jordan's era began. Now, more than 3 decades later, Magic was poised to use that first-hand experience to defend his former rival against what he saw as disrespect from a younger generation that didn't fully appreciate the history and context. Hearing a legend defend another legend carries a weight no number of statistics, highlights, or hot takes can match. When someone who actually competed against Michael Jordan on the biggest stage stands up and declares him the greatest player they've ever seen, it resonates deeply. They speak not from speculation, second-hand accounts, or highlight reels, but from the scars and memories earned in real competition, from having stared across the court and faced a player whose abilities seemed to transcend normal human limits. That is the perspective Magic brought when he appeared at InvestFest 2025 in Atlanta on the Earn Your Leisure podcast, at a time when the Kevin Durant, LeBron James podcast clip was still reverberating across the basketball world. When asked the question that has defined basketball discourse for decades, Michael Jordan or LeBron James, Magic did not hesitate. He did not equivocate or offer a diplomatic non-answer. His answer was simple and definitive: Michael Jordan first, followed by LeBron and Kareem. But what made his response powerful was not just the choice itself, it was his reasoning. Magic didn't merely declare Jordan the GOAT and move on. He painted a vivid picture, taking his audience back to a moment that revealed the full scope of Jordan's genius. Magic spoke with reverence as he recounted a specific play from Game 2 of the 1991 NBA Finals. "I'm always going to be honest with myself," he said. "Don't get it twisted, I love LeBron." But when Michael Jordan took off with that tongue out, his voice carried the awe of someone recounting a near-religious experience. He described the play in detail: Jordan driving right, appearing contained by the Lakers' defense, then midair, switching the ball to his left hand, extending his body, and laying it off the glass with defenders frozen in helpless amazement. "Nobody alive has been able to do that. That boy is too bad," Magic said. The play has since become part of basketball mythology, a perfect example of Jordan's unmatched combination of skill, athleticism, and creativity. And Magic wasn't just a witness, he was one of the defenders on the floor, powerless to stop the brilliance in motion. That first-hand perspective, grounded in lived experience, is what allowed Magic to speak with authority, awe and respect, reminding the world exactly why Michael Jordan remains in a class of his own.
Saved his with that three-pointer, so that leaves him with only 1 ring. And that 1 ring was because of a Draymond Green suspension. So looking at all of that, Kevin and LeBarbie both have no legitimate...
In that 1991 NBA Finals series, Michael Jordan averaged 31.2 points per game on 56% shooting, including an incredible stretch where he went 13-4-13 from the field. These weren't just statistics, they were declarations of dominance against one of the greatest teams the NBA had ever seen. Magic Johnson, who had spent his career competing against the best players in the league, immediately recognized that he was witnessing something extraordinary. What made Magic's defense of Jordan so compelling was that it wasn't framed as an attack on LeBron James, at least not entirely. Throughout his remarks, Magic made a point to acknowledge LeBron's greatness. "LeBron is a bad boy too," Magic said. "He's a bad boy, but he's not Michael. Don't get it twisted. I love LeBron." In Magic's vocabulary, the phrase bad boy was far from dismissive, it was a term of respect. He was affirming that LeBron is one of the all-time greats, a player with unmatched accomplishments, yet drawing a distinction between being great and being the greatest. In Magic's view, that distinction was embodied solely by Michael Jordan. This nuance is critical to understanding GOAT debates. When Magic says Jordan is better than LeBron, he is not dismissing LeBron's career or achievements. Rather, he is highlighting the combination of dominance, clutch performances, cultural impact, and an undefeated finals record that places Jordan on a tier of his own. LeBron occupies his own tier, with a legacy and impact that are undeniable, but it is different from Jordan's unparalleled greatness. Further insight into Magic's perspective comes from his appearance on All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. While discussing the 1992 Dream Team and his experience playing alongside Jordan, Magic shared stories that encapsulate why he holds Jordan in such high regard. These first-hand experiences, combined with his respect for LeBron's accomplishments, offer a layered and thoughtful view of basketball hierarchy, one that recognizes excellence across generations while maintaining the reverence reserved for a legend who defined an era.
You know when that tongue come
It's
out,
over. It's a problem.
he about to do something. Boy, that dude came out that timeout, he scored about 4 straight threes. Ooh. And I went, oh, man.
Magic went on to describe what happened next, a play so remarkable that he felt compelled to physically act it out during the interview. He recreated the movement, the timing, the mid-air adjustment, and the sheer athleticism that made the moment unforgettable. By demonstrating it with his own body, Magic gave the audience a visceral sense of just how extraordinary Michael Jordan's skill and presence on the court were, something that words alone could never fully convey.
Stole the basketball, he coming down the right side, he takes off. David Robinson coming this way. So Mike just cuffed him. And he just looked at him.
In the air.
And he kept looking, he kept looking, he kept looking. He went all the way down, Jack. He did a 360. Ooh. Bam! I said, that's it. That's it. It's over now.
That's him.
It's over now.
Then came the moment that truly illustrated why Magic Johnson believes Michael Jordan is in a league of his own, the aftermath of a Dream Team practice session. "We all bowed down," Magic recalled. Those 4 simple words from one of the greatest players in NBA history convey everything about how Jordan was perceived by his peers. This wasn't jealousy or resentment, it was recognition of something transcendent. Magic Johnson, a 5-time NBA champion, 3-time MVP, and the architect of the Showtime Lakers dynasty, acknowledged that Jordan had reached a level that demanded respect from everyone, even from the legends who came before him. And this perspective explains why the Kevin Durant and LeBron James podcast moment was so jarring to the older generation. In the world Magic, Larry Bird, and Charles Barkley grew up in, you didn't casually joke about the man who commanded such reverence. You didn't laugh at references to his most personal tragedies. Respect was earned through dominance, and no one had dominated like Michael Jordan. The response to Magic's comments was immediate and widespread. Clips from his appearance on the Earn Your Leisure podcast went viral, garnering millions of views across YouTube and social media. Outlets such as Lakers Nation and Bleacher Report covered the story extensively, noting that Magic's endorsement carried a unique weight, given his dual perspective as both a Jordan rival and a former Lakers executive during LeBron's early years in Los Angeles. The implications went far beyond simple GOAT debates. Magic's defense of Jordan was also a generational statement about values, about how the game should be played and discussed. When he spoke about never joining other stars and choosing to compete against the best rather than teaming up with them, he was drawing a clear line between his era and the modern superteam era, emphasizing a philosophy of competition that he believes defined basketball's true greatness.
He wasn't like that.
You know what?
Y'all wanted to compete.
I wasn't a guy like that.
Yeah.
I never wanted to play with nobody but my dudes.
Yeah.
I was good. And I've always been a dude, wherever I end up, that's who I'm rolling with.